Hi, everyone. This is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from dry, deserty Dubai. Today is March 26, 2022, and I figured I'd do an AMA. I always love you guys and spending time with you. And even though I'm out here in the desert, having fun, enjoying life for the Binance event, meetings with various people, and who knows? Hopefully, we'll be able to tweet some pictures here and there. But it'd be a lot of fun to just kind of keep in touch and give you some updates on some things. And of course, let you get to your questions. So first, let's talk about Cardano. It's the thing you all love. So things are going well. This month was a heavy development month. UTXO HD was a big one. It's well more than underway. We made some major progress with Hydra this month. We've made some major progress with pipelining. It looks like SIP 31, 32, and 33 are working their way to the testnet and are on schedule. SIP 40 collateralized inputs are also making their way to testnet. They're under construction, as well as Plutus versioning and a litany of other enhancements. So the Vossel hard fork is going to be a pretty significant one. On one hand, you're going to have big throughput increase. On the other hand, you are going to have new ways of developing Cardano contracts that don't require high throughput. So it's always nice to see that, and it's long overdue. We were planning on breaking it two different updates, February and June. Instead, we did a non-hard fork in February, and we rolled everything into the June hard fork. It's just the way a lot of these components came together. So it's an overloaded release. I like doing releases a little smaller, but the good news is that code looks good, testing is on schedule, and we're making pretty good progress with it. Now, we released a blog post last week that outlined in detailed pipelining in more detail. In fact, I'll go ahead and post it here for you guys. But basically, long and short is that pipelining was covered in let's see your blog. And it's called Increasing the Transaction Throughput of Cardano. And it discussed different approaches. For example, like, there we go. I'll put that up on the screen. And it showed a spectrum of options based upon the transaction payload. As many of you know, and some of you don't know, there's a difference in the accounting models of Cardano and Ethereum. Ethereum chose to take what Bitcoin had done, extend it, and then add more capabilities to it to enable smart contracts. Ethereum chose a completely different accounting model, which I think was based on lessons learned from NXT, which came out around 2013. The advantage of the accounts model is it replicates a more traditional virtual machine model like the JVM or other things. And it's a little simpler to understand from a developer's viewpoint. The advantage of the extended UTXO model and UTXO model is it doesn't have a notion of global state from the smart contract perspective. It's deterministic and local alongside a litany of other things. And so ultimately, if your goal is to put on things like improved versions of Lightning, if your goal is to do side chains and lots of off-chain activity, but you want to guarantee isomorphism, then it's much better to parallelize with UTXO than it is to parallelize with accounts. The challenge is you have to decide what is the minimum viable amount of expressiveness. So you'll see in this article, it says, hang on a second, not all transactions are created equally. So you'll see numbers like 150 TPS, assuming a canonical normal Cardano transaction. Then it gets lower if you're talking about Plutus scripts, and the devil's in the details there. So I'd highly encourage you to read the blog post, and I think that it'll add a lot of clarity. But this is coming in June with the Vossel hard fork, in addition to a lot of enhancements to Plutus. Reference inputs, reference scripts, reference data, collateralized inputs, Plutus versioning, and potentially some cryptographic primitives like SEC256K1. SECP256K1 is the Bitcoin elliptic curve, which would help with interoperability. Now, reference scripts mean that you don't have to spend something to see something or interact with it. So that means in some cases, you don't even have a transaction occur. The other thing is that having inputs and outputs means that depending on how you use the outputs, you may be able to have a single transaction that emulates dozens or hundreds of transactions that would occur in Ethereum account model. So it's not an apples to apples comparison. And we're very happy and proud of the work that's done. And we think ultimately extended UTXO is the model that will dominate the future. Satoshi got it right with UTXO, but it's dangerous to increase the expressiveness beyond a certain point, which is why it wasn't pursued long term. Every attempt to do so with Bitcoin led to some serious issues. For example, you can reference the Bitcoin inflation bug of 2010 as a reference point. A few other things. DApp ecosystem, MinSwap was a great example of the community coming together. Long and short is when they open sourced their code, Wing Riders found something, and then Wing Riders reported it to MinSwap. They worked together. The auditor that reviewed the code, Tweak, also wrote a blog post explaining how they missed something, and it just discussed how difficult it is in practice to build smart contracts for any system, and why auditing, certification, automated tooling, and best practices are so important. So that seems to be resolved, as far as I can tell. The teams are slowly but surely chipping away. The thing that was not reported was how the Cardano community worked together. Other communities are very adversarial. Our community seems to be friendly, welcoming, and collaborative, which is a hallmark of success. There's over 500 dApps under construction at the moment, millions of assets that have been issued on Cardano. Our TVL is growing at an extraordinary rate. Wallet creation is growing at an extraordinary rate. Participation in Catalyst is growing at an extraordinary rate. These are just facts. Whether they're reported or not, whether they're reflected in the crypto media or not, or they want to focus on other things, is completely beside the point. Cardano continues to thrive and continues to be relevant in every dimension, from our engineering to our science to community growth and engagement. A lot of great progress with the foundation as well. They came here to Dubai for the first wave of conferences. I came for the second wave, as well as some private meetings. And in both cases, we were able to, I think, fairly adequately represent the mission, vision, and philosophy of what we're trying to do. A lot more to say on that relationship and the governance of open source development, but that's for a later time. And hopefully the 360 episode this month and next month will be quite elucidating. Final announcement, I'm going to Consensus June 9th to 12th. It's going to be in Austin, Texas. And not only will I be there, the Cardano Foundation will be there, and likely dozens of Cardano ventures building on Cardano will be there. Everything from the VC ecosystem like the C Fund and others to efforts in Africa to our DeFi actors and so forth. I know some people on Twitter and in the crypto space like to pretend that there's no ventures on Cardano, that it's ghost chain, nothing exists, it's all made up. So I think they'll be quite surprised when they actually show up and see there's real people there who don't work for me and are completely independent of IO and the rest of the gang. Turns out there's hundreds of these companies, and it turns out there's a lot of very passionate people. So in addition to Consensus, our hope is also host a community event similar to the one that we hosted in Miami in 2021. And you're all welcome to come to that event. It will be free of charge. The community event that we host, Consensus won't encompass tickets. So unfortunately, I can't extend that to the main conference. But if you happen to be in Texas between June 9th to 12th, we'll make an announcement of an event. Love to see you there. It'd be a lot of fun. Okay, so let's get to your questions.